Welcome to this new Flight Simulator update movie. In this movie we're gonna look at the changes to the aircraft and the avionics of the CJ4, which are part of the aircraft and aviation update number 1, which is currently in beta. As you can see, I just started the aircraft, and this is something I want to show you because this is something which has changed, right? So they added now a system which performs the alignment, and the alignment is also known as the Echo or the Alpha Hotel Romeo Sierra alignment setup sequence. So that's something which has been changed. Besides that, there's some new, I would say, panels, right? You can see that everything has been, let's say, done from scratch, which is, I would say, really cool. There are also some buttons which are still not working, right? These ones on the top. Most of them are not working yet, but I do think that it will happen, I would say, in the near future. The other thing which they added, just like the other aircrafts which received an update of AAU number 1, is the TA, right? The traffic avoidance alerts. That's also new to the aircraft and new to Flight Simulator 2020, at least for this aircraft. So that's really cool. Going to the, I would say, other panels, you can see a lot of changes, right? Over here you can see a lot of details, but most of those details were already there. But if you look at this central display, which is also shown on the right side, but then a little bit different, as you can see, it contains a lot of changes, right? So the N1 percentage is now, I would say, fully, drawn, and also, I would say, far more clear than it initially was with the, I would say, basic or with the original cockpit. Then here we see the temperature. We can see the N2s here clearly, as well as the oil temperature and pressure, as well as the fuel which we have, I would say, inside the aircraft. Over here we can see the rudder and the elevation, as well as the flaps. And over here there's the flight plan, right? And that's really cool, because if you set up the flight plan, in some cases you might want to, let's say, go to this panel again, right? And have a look at the flight plan, or maybe you want to look at the legs which are in front of you. Well, in this case, I would say you can see everything here. So you don't have to watch downstairs, but you can simply look at the screen and go to the different, I would say, settings and figure out, hey, what's going on. As you can see, currently the terrain and the weather is enabled, and I would say both traffic above and below us, if we're, I would say, close to traffic above or below us, then we'll be, of course, warned by the traffic avoidance system to avoid a collision. So that's all kind of cool things which they have added. So let me initialize the position, because then I can show you some other cool stuff which I figured out when playing with this nice aircraft, right? So let's go ahead and let's go to the init page. Always a struggle finding it, especially in this one. So here we have it. Perf init. No, we don't need to do it right now. Just thinking what would be initialize the position, right? You can see that although there's a warnings, I'd say it actually doesn't work. So you really need to find the correct page. But it sounds a little bit stupid, but now I can't find the page, of course, which is, let's say, kind of irritating. So I don't want to show the messages. I want to have the perf data. We can have the perf init being set, right? That's all which can be done here, as well as the VNAV setup. That's also fully modeled now, which is really cool. And then eventually it should bring us to that position init. For some reason it doesn't show it to me. Where can I find it? Let me go to the flight page. Yeah, here it is. This is cool. So let me enter the destination, or the, I would say, the source airport or the departing airport. Of course I don't know which one it is. So Charlie Yankee Whisker Golf, or Whiskey Golf. And that still works the same, right? So don't expect any changes there, but I want to show you some other stuff. And then we've got the, let's go to, where shall we fly to? let's see if we've got a Charlie India Bravo Romeo. And that's the first thing I want to show you. If you click on this sign, you can use the keyboard to type the entry. In this case, I can use it to type the ICAO code. So once you've done it, you need to click again. That will, I would say, not blink anymore. And then you can simply press the specific key which you want to have the value. So in this case, I want to have it on the destination. I can press execute. That's all fine. And you can also do the same thing for the vias, right? If you press the vias option or the to option, it will also start to blink. So either click on the blinking field or on the, I would say, enter field over the box where you can enter the stuff, and then press, I would say, then add the options, and then you can either enter it manually by the keyboard, or you can use it, I would say, via the mouse button, of course, because that's also an option. First thing you need to really do is click next to it, because else it doesn't work, as you just saw, right? So here I added one of the, I would say, additional waypoints over here, and then I can press execute, and then it will update my flight plan accordingly. So that's cool. So I can go to the legs, and then I can see, okay, hey, these are the legs, right? That's all nice. So that's something they really changed, the keyboard, I would say, addition, which you can do. So that's really, really cool. Then they, I would say, made changes to the pressurization systems. So the pressurization systems were already modified for the passenger part, but it's now also fully, I would say, modified for the crew part. So you will now get alerts if the pressurization isn't correct. Here it says also cabin pressure, right, and the pressure control. So here are all the controls, and that's now all working according to the, I would say, documentation which I found on the internet. Then there's the integrated dual engine FedEx systems with the N1 mode indications and accurate N1 targets. That's what we just looked at, right? That's, I would say, what they changed, I would say, made easier. And they have added the coupled VNAV with editable constraints, flight path angles, vertical path smoothing, and VNAV invalidation conditions. As well as they changed the autopilot. It's now an advanced autopilot, including armable lateral and vertical modes, as well as the complex combined armed modes. And combined armed modes simply means, hey, you enable, I'd say, a lot of options together, and in certain circumstances was not allowed to combine them. I would say or not all combinations were allowed, but they now made some new modifications where it is allowed to, I'd say, have them, right? So that's cool. So here we can still go to the position init page. So let me do that. Then we'll also get rid of that message, right? Always useful and display next to it. It's a little bit weird that I couldn't find it. I'm still trying to figure out where it is, to be honest. But probably it's somewhat one of these buttons, but I'm not gonna bother you with that. As you might have seen already, I pressed this button, the MFD data. As soon as you press that option, it will change to this format. So it will replace the, I would say, previous nice map with some new data, which includes in this case the takeoff reference. This is page 1 of 2. And it will contain the runway ID, the wind, the length, the scope, the conditions, but also the V1s up to the VTs. So it contains the speeds, right? The speeds which are normally shown also here on this nice meter also, which will help you identifying stuff. Then you've got the weather, the meter data, also shown here, which is also cool, but also the weight of the aircraft. And several options, right? What are the options for takeoff? And all that data comes from the perf menu, or at least most of the data, I should say, because the perf in it, right? That's where you see a lot of those values coming back. Here's the GWT value. There's the sensed view, and I can set the cruise speed. The cruise speed is not shown on this page, but if I would go to takeoff, then you would see all those things which are here, as well as the meter data which is shown here, and then you can scroll to it using the next buttons. Didn't find a way yet how you can navigate between these pages, to be honest. I was also initially thinking, hey, it can be done with next and previous, but it looks like that doesn't work. So that's, I would say, probably some work in progress, right? So let's assume that we're departing from runway 13, and then hit exec. then you see that it updates the options, right? It sets the length, it sets the runway, it sets the condition. It doesn't set the slope as well as the wind for some reason, but that might be something which is expected. I'm not sure about that, but I didn't figure out where to do it. The other thing is that the lag wind, which is normally shown here, that one can't be pressed. So it's also, I would say, kind of between brackets impossible to set the meter data. But that will likely come in, I would say, in a future version, right? Can you still set those winds and the outside temperature? Yes, you can still do that, right? You can simply click here and then say this box will start blinking again and you can enter the temperature, right? Let's say that it's -1. And then hit enter. Enter doesn't work. That would be nice if they would have added enter. And then you can set the outside temperature. For some reason it also doesn't accept the minus sign. Oh. Might be due to the fact that it's mapped to a different button. Let me try it again. Minus. Come on. No, it doesn't look like that you can enter the minus, but that probably has to do with the key which is already mapped. And then of course you can get the meter data and then type in the wind direction and the wind speed. But that can be, or that needs to be done all manually. There's no way, at least not what I could figure out, that you can do it automatically. That would be a real nice addition if they would do that in the near future. If you want to return to the original page, you can simply press this option, and then you can also go to the MFD Advanced page, but that will only control this part, right? So it will not control the part which you see above here, because that's the MFD data page. The display menu allows you to set certain, I would say, display options like the high nav aids, and you can click on it and you can switch them off, right? That let's say influences what kind of data is being displayed on those displays, as well as the low altitudes, the intersections, right? They're currently hidden, but if you switch it on, you can see a lot of new things will be added here. As well as the speed, and those are for the speed restrictions, if I understood it correctly, so that's good. The altitude restrictions, also if they are applicable, you can switch them on or off. And also the turn waypoints, you can press the option, but there's, I would say, nothing which activates this. However, this one can be changed, right? You can set it to off, you can set it to on, which will change the display again, or you can set it to VNAV, and that will also change the size. And what does it do? Well, let me show you quickly again, because you might have missed it. It will change this part, which is shown above the map, right? So if it's off, it will show nothing. If it shows on, then it will show us the flight plan, including some more details. If we move it to VNAV, which I can do, then it will be, I would say, less data, only the nautical miles and the time before it takes before we are going there. So you can play around with this, and then also, of course, you've got the next page, which also contains a lot of additional things. Something like the missed approach, right? The missed approach was something which was already there in some of the aircrafts, but I don't think it was already in this one. So it now has been added, so you can also see, okay, hey, what's the missed approach? By default it's switched off, but you can switch it on if you want. The other thing you can do is change the MFD PFD. I tried looking at it, but I didn't see much differences, to be honest. And I do think that it's still work in progress, or something which might change in the near future. Then we've got the side, and that could be either left or right, and that simply has to do with, okay, hey, if I change options now here, right? So if I go back to the previous page and then say, hey, I want to also show the intersections, it will, let's say, manipulate this screen. So it's simply left, right from the displays over here. So cool stuff. I would say really like the additions which they have added to this aircraft, because I do think they add a lot of value. Going back to the index page, right? So here was the position in it. Sorry for that, right? I thought it was in an init page, but I was, let's say, kind of struggling with it. But that's, of course, in the other aircrafts, it's the init page. In this aircraft, it isn't the init page. Here you also can see that there's still some issues because it shows position 1 of 2 and you can't go to the next pages. So that's between brackets kind of weird. Then we've got of course the flight plan and of course the lags, but nothing has changed here dramatically based on what I could find. But you can see the tools here, and then you can still enter the same data, right? So let's assume that I want to delete one of the waypoints over here. I can do it and then hit execute. And then it's, let's say, back to the default lags, right? So nothing, let's say, besides the origin and the destination airport. Then go to the lags. I said lags. Sorry, flight plan. Then go to the lags and then say, okay, hey, I want to enter something here. Well, you can still do it. Simply click on it, then press either the keys on your keyboard, or of course, when you still don't want to use this nice functionality, you can still enter it manually. And this will, I'd say, directly modify the flight plan, right? So once you hit execute, also everything will be updated. And let's say then you're happy, right? So cool stuff. Mainly to the, I would say, action plan, but also to all these displays, all kind of nice things, which are really cool. Then there are some performance calculations built in, and those performance calculations, as far as I figured out, it's something in this area. And here you can see the V1s, etc. Then you can send them, right? So based on your input, it will, I'd say, figure out, hey, what are the V1s, the VRs, the V2s, and the VTs. And then when using the send button, you can update that, and that will add them also here in this display. But as we also saw on this one, it will also add it here. So if you would need that, and that's, I would say, strongly recommended, then you can, I'd say, send the takeoff data to the other instruments. Here we've got the runway length limit, the performance limit, and the structural limit. Not sure where they are used for, to be honest, but I've left them as is, so that's cool. Perf init, right, also includes the VNAV configuration. So the target speed, and the transalt is set to 180, and then the target speed is say 240. If you would go to the cruise speed, that one hasn't been set, but then the target speed is 300. And if you go to the descent, it will move back to 240, and this is for it, I would say, transitions to that specific area. So that will likely be the VNAV. I still need to give this a try, and to be honest, the VNAV is something which is already long on my list to have a look at, because I'm normally using, I would say, the altitude and the let's say the altitude option, and this nice vertical speed mode, or the flight level change options, or flight level change button to change the altitude. But VNAV is also something I want to look into, but that's for, I would say, a future video. Right, so you can still go to takeoff, but if you want to do it a different way, you can also go to takeoff here. The same thing is for the approach, right? The approach, you can still do the same. So it will still have the options like we previously discussed. And for some reason it does allow the -1 here, so let me do that. So -1, let's see if it accepts it. Here it accepts it, so it's probably a key binding issue. And then of course it doesn't, I would say, allow you to put in the runway ID, which you might initially have expected, right? For example, if you enter in runway 13 or something. Now I need to do it on the keyboard. And if you would press here, you would see nothing happens, right? So it says key not active. So the trick to do that is go back to the arrivals and departures, then go to the index, and then click on the arrivals for the destination airport, and then select, for example, ILS 08, and then hit, in this case, execute. And that will set up the path correctly, right? So that's cool. Once you've done that and you return to the perf page and go to the approach phase, you will see that it has added the information, at least the minority of, or the majority of the information, right? Not everything. because you can still enter, for example, the runway slope, at least in some of the aircrafts, except in this one. Normally I would say, what I would normally expect is that it would add automatically here, but in this case it looks like that they are still working on it to be added, because runway slope is really the angle of the runway, right? So that's something which I hope they will add in the near future. Then we still have the VREF and the VAP speed, right? And you can also simply send them, and then it will be sent to this nice system, and once they're, I would say, sent, it will say send complete, and you would have them here. But in this case the other values are taking precedence, since we did not take off yet. So cool things again, both helps you, would say, taking off and landing using the idle speeds, as we just discussed. What are other options? Yeah, it's the flight planning, right? The flight planning, we would say we briefly looked at, okay, hey, how can you set up the flight planning? But there are also ways now to easily set up, I would say, holds and other options in this nice flight planning, as well as the radius to fix, the intercepts, the procedure turns, the missed approaches, as well as custom waypoints by using a scratch pad. I didn't look too much into that yet, so I'm not going to show it now, but as soon as I found time to figure out how it really works and how useful it is, then I will definitely show you. Here you can see there's a hold now configured also. That's part of the, I would say, missed approach, because here you can also see that there's a missed approach. So that's now really clearly seen in those displays, right? So if you import, I would say, flight plan, or if you import an approach, it will also automatically now add the missed approach as well as the holds, which are, say, easily configured, but also with the altitudes and the maximum speeds which are applicable in that area. So here ends this video, where we looked at several of the changes in the CJ4, and there are a lot of changes. I must say I'm really impressed with all these changes, and I would really love to see, okay, that they will make some more changes to make it even more realistic, but I think it's a good step ahead. If you want to also already test this one, you need to participate in the AAU update 1. You need to go to the Xbox Insider Hub, and then I would say mark yourself as, hey, I want to participate in betas, and then you can do that. One warning, please move your community folder to, I would say, outside of the standard installation folder. And the reason for that is that in some stages of the beta, it might require you to fully reinstall Flight Simulator, and then you really don't want to lose the community content. Here ends this video. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then consider to use the like button. If you got questions or comments, then feel free to post in the comment box below. And if you want to stay up to date about new videos I'm posting, then make sure that you're subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.